Here's 5.22. Two blocks are accelerated across a horizontal frictionless surface as shown. Frictional forces do keep the two blocks from sliding relative to each other, and the two move with the same acceleration. If F is equal to 1.2 newtons and M is equal to 1 kilogram, what is the horizontal component, the frictional force, of the force on the small block on the large block? Okay, so for the moment, let's not worry about the internal forces between these two blocks. Let's just blob them together as one total mass of 5m. And if we do that and did a free body diagram of this, we would note there's weight and there's a normal force. But as far as the acceleration to the right, there's only one force providing that, and that is this one external force, F, that's going to the right. So if we were to set up Newton's second law based on this free body diagram, summation of all the forces in the x direction would be equal to the total mass, 5m, times a, and that's equal to the net force in the direction of positive acceleration. That simply is just F. So the acceleration is going to equal F divided by 5m, which will be 1.2 divided by 5 times 1 kilogram, or 0.24 meters per second squared. Alright, so that's the acceleration of our system. If we focus in on one of the masses, we can figure out the frictional force, and we want to find the force of the small block on the large block. So let's do a free body diagram of the large block. Here we have the large block. It's got weight equal to 3 mg. There will be a normal force on it from the surface. Let's call it N. There actually will be a normal force of the small block on it. Let's call it little n, going down like that. The F force is acting on the small block, so it's not acting on this block, but there is a frictional force of the small block on this large block, and it's equal and opposite to the frictional force of the large block on the small block. In other words, this frictional force is actually the force that is making it go to the right, and it's causing its acceleration, which is 0.24 meters per second squared. So there is really only one force in the x direction for this 3m mass, and that is the frictional force between it and the block above it. If I were to set up Newton's second law based on this, summation of all the forces in the x direction is equal to, in this case, 3ma, and that's equal to the net force in the direction of acceleration, which is simply F. So the frictional force is equal to 3 times 1 times 0.24, which is equal to 0.72 newtons, and it is to the right. So the force of the small block on the large block is 0.72 newtons to the right. The force of the large block on the small block should be equal and opposite. Quickly, if we did a free body diagram on the small block, it would have weight, let's call it 2 mg. There's a normal force, little n. It's got this big force F pulling to the right, and then they'll have a frictional force, this frictional force, pulling to the left. As a result of all this, it accelerates to the right. So Newton's second law for this will look like this. 2ma is equal to big F minus the frictional force, or the frictional force is going to equal big F minus 2ma, which would be equal to 1.2 minus 2 times 1 times 0.24, and that is equal to 0.72 newtons. And that, in this case, is to the left, but that's the force of the large block on the small block. The force of the small block on the large block is to the right, and it's 0.72 newtons. So the one we want is this one right here.